Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me Gamerturk and this is weekly Sword Art Online Alicization War of Underworld Q&A, the show that surprises you by actually going week by week this time around. Yeah, we're kinda back on schedule, this series is entirely ending, but yeah, 3-4 weeks, let's make the most out of it. As usual, we got 3 types of questions. We got normal questions, which means you can watch it without getting any spoilers. So if you watched episode 19 of War of Underworld, you are perfectly safe to watch the normal questions portion of this video. Then we got opinion questions, which just means it's just like normal, no spoilers will be there, but the answers will be slightly more opinionated rather than fully embedded in facts. That's why I separated the topic. And then we got the spoiler questions, which means anything that covers beyond episode 19 of War of Underworld. Those questions will be there and will have spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, I'll give you another spoiler warning once we're actually there, so you can safely leave the video before getting any spoilers yourself. But yeah, this week we got all types of questions. All 3 types actually do have questions in them, and it's kinda packed that I needed to cut some of the questions away because it was too much, it would be too long of a video. But as usual, patrons and channel members do get priority access to getting their questions featured, so I may as well plug that one in, because why not? Let's start with the first question by Sophia. Actually, Kirito was flying with Asuna and Kirito zoomed like a comet before appearing in front of Alice and the dragons. My question is, where did Asuna go? The anime just portrayed the scene saying Kirito and Asuna will fly together to save Alice, but she went missing at the end. What happened to her? Yeah, I received this question quite a lot actually. There were at least 5 different people asking me this, specifically on the video. I got the questions elsewhere as well. It's very simple. It was one of those very minor details that I dropped out of the explained video because I already had more major things to explain there. Really, it's very easy. The anime kind of dramatized the entire arrival of Kirito, like Thor coming down with a lightning. It didn't work that way. When Alice had turned around, she saw stars, 2 specific stars falling down. One of the stars started gliding down to the ground, that was Asuna. The other star came to a standstill between Alice and Gabriel Miller, Subtilizer. And the dragons were not in that condition, that's why I said there may be a dropped scene here. We'll see next week. We'll see next week if they do the thing with the dragons. Next question, do you think that in the Blu-ray release they'll add some scenes that were cut by the anime, like the majority of the nightmare sequence, the monologues of Asuna during the fights against the Red Knights, or the kiss scene, or realistically they will simply correct some animation issues? This one is not in the opinion section and in the normal section because that much is guaranteed. You won't get any new scenes in the Blu-ray release, that much I can guarantee you. The Blu-ray releases always have keyframe corrections, like faces getting redrawn, some minor effects being added in, etc. You can't expect anything more on the Blu-ray release. We will not get the first day flashbacks or Kirito's schoolmate flashbacks in the Blu-ray because that's entirely new scenes that they're not gonna bother with. Next one. Was setting the FLA rate to 5000 a mistake by Critter's teammate? Gabriel did order Critter to turn back world acceleration once 8 hours were left, but when Higa and Kikoka explained the consequence, did Gabriel really mean he would take the chances of being stuck in Underworld? No, he actually did not. That's a pretty good question. I'm surprised someone paid attention this much. Critter was basically aiming to increase the acceleration rate as much as he can, without screwing up their own plans, obviously. But when, I believe it was Briggs, either Briggs or Hans, I'm gonna go with Briggs, you can call me out if that's wrong in the comments. When he shot the thing, the acceleration rate just flew to the upper limit, which was obviously detrimental to Gabriel's plans as well. That was not part of the plan, that was a huge mistake with Briggs destroying the entire console. But yeah, good question, glad to see people actually paying attention to the anime. Next one. If he can use that way to elevate himself, why didn't he use it when he was trapped with Alice? Referring to the time when Kirito was hanging off of the side of the central cathedral with Alice, obviously. Well, he wasn't able to conjure that kind of an incarnation back then. Now, with him having a direct connection to the main visualizer as well, these things happen way too naturally for Kirito, even more so than any other people. Well, why am I even being subtle? even easier than Gabriel is doing things right now. Gabriel is really destroying stuff with Incarnation without being directly connected to main visualizer, so you'll see more of that in the next episode as well. But to answer your question specifically, no, at that time he wasn't able to do that much Incarnation, otherwise he wouldn't have the trouble against Administrator, you know? Next question, since Kirito is back, let me ask, like, is Kirito running on Incarnation? Because, you know, Golden Eye's in the OP, also since he's using Dual Blades even without enough system authority, even if he did have enough system authority, Dual Blades is not in the game, so he wouldn't be able to use it if he wasn't using Incarnation. And since he's using Incarnation without much effort, I'm not sure. That all ties into being connected to the main visualizer. That's actually part of the previous question, that's why they're back to back. I do put some effort into these Q&As, okay? So the thing is, no, he is not running on Incarnation of Asuna, Shinon, Lifa and Yujo's memory. They were just there to kickstart Kirito's soul back in action, and now he's running on his own as usual. But yeah, with him being, especially with him being directly connected to the main visualizer, he's constantly using Incarnation out of his ass. That's not a very professional thing to say as an answer. He is constantly using Incarnation with much less effort than it used to be before his direct connection to the main visualizer. But he's not running on Incarnation, like he's not gonna go back to being brain dead at the end of it. He is properly awake. He's just using Incarnation on top of that being properly awake. Next question. Love the explain today, really concise and making sure the things some might have misled about were explained really well. Thank you, thank you. Actually, really love the... My R and L's are getting mixed up after being exposed to Japanese so much. I mean, A1 was asking for it, and with that close call they gave us, yep, definitely. Do you think with the latest season, the main problems called out on SAO first season's pacing, character development and others are finally solved? Where do you see way for improvement? That's quite the packed question. Like, I don't want to say it's better than previous seasons or worse than previous seasons, because when you try to compare a 2-volume story being adapted into 1 core versus 10 volumes of a story being adapted into 4 cores, this is not quite comparable, you know. It's much different in regards to how much you cram into a certain thing. And even with Alicization, we had 6 volumes crammed into 2 cores, then 4 volumes crammed into another 2 cores. Like, even within Alicization, it's quite the varying pacing there. And even before Alicization, we had tons of skipped scenes, like Murder Mystery was butchered, the first day was completely cut out. What else? Aria of a Starless Night, the first floor boss fight, that was completely butchered, even though A1 asked Reki to write that story so they had something to adapt, and then didn't adapt. So yeah, I wouldn't say things are better, things are solved, they're most certainly not. Where do I see improvement? Cut down on anime original scenes. If you don't have the time to adapt the source material properly, you certainly don't have the time to make anime original scenes on top of that. That's where I see the improvement. And the second question, what would you like to see adapted and what do you expect to actually be adapted next in this? Why is this in the normal question? This should be in the opinion section. Okay, I titled this wrong, so it's showing up in the normal section. Doesn't matter, we keep going with it. Next up, I mean, how to answer this? I am thinking about that because I don't have a script for this Q&A videos, by the way. I just answer on the top of my mind. The problem with Moon Cradle is the most likely option is that we're gonna get a Moon Cradle OVA sometime down the line, because Progressive is an entirely different beast. I am not even sure if they adapt that, how they're gonna adapt that. I have no idea. So the most likely option is that they're gonna adapt Moon Cradle as something like an OVA or a 1-core season of some sort. The problem is, Moon Cradle, for starters, it's the Excalibur, sorry, not Excalibur, why Excalibur? It's the caliber of the Alicization arc. It's a minor side story that doesn't affect anything at all. It's just, I don't want to say chill because there are stakes there, but still, compared to what happened in Alicization, it's a major step down in terms of stakes. It's quite unrelated to everything else in the grand scheme of things. And most importantly, Moon Cradle is... it's not exactly the right word, but it's kind of an incomplete story on its own. Like, you don't get a conclusion to the main source of the conflict. And especially in Japan, Moon Cradle, for that specific reason, is quite heavily criticized. So unless they decide to solve that problem and give the story a proper conclusion, I can see the anime completely skipping Moon Cradle as if it doesn't even exist. And personally, if they do that, I wouldn't have any problems with it, because yeah, let's just move on to some more important stuff, not just some small side story with zero consequences. Next one, I titled this Quickie, so I'm probably imagining when I pick the question, it's a sign for me to please answer this fast, otherwise it's gonna take way too long. So let's go. Relating to the tree transformation scene, how did Kirito know that his floodlight has been connected to the main visualizer? Let's start with that. I remember the question. I will not read the rest of it just yet. Let's start with the first one. How does he know he's been connected to the main visualizer? He doesn't know. He just senses that he has this connection to everything else going on around Underworld specifically. One example of this was a dropped scene from the anime. If you watch my explained, I even mentioned this because it was somewhat relevant and it actually answers this question as well. He can sense the location of Alice and Gabrielle Miller before setting off, specifically locating them in the map and instantly going for that. He doesn't know how he's capable of doing this, but he is capable of doing it. Like, he has a sense that something different is connected to his mind that gives him a much wider scope. So, continuing, and so Kirito can overwrite the memory of the Night Sky Sword into PoH's avatar. How was Kirito so sure that PoH can be turned into a tree and thus can't log out of the Underworld? He wasn't sure, it's the same answer as the first part of that question. He has this feeling of something different going on in the background, and he's basically very confidently banking on that thing. He doesn't know anything for certain, he has a general idea of how the world works already, and he has this feeling that he is much more connected to the world than he usually is. The reasoning for that doesn't matter in regards to Kirito's perspective at that point. He just knows these are the circumstances, and he just uses that in hopes of, helping his cause in that point. Did Kirito know his recovery operation done by Higa in the real? Nope, he did not. That's all the answer there is. Next question, it's actually a good question as well. There was something bugging me a few episodes back and now this episode too. I remember at the beginning of the War of Underworld, Gabrielle said that what happens in Underworld can't be written to any media, yet later on we see that Moonphase and the other Korean and Chinese players were sent a video of American players and Japanese players fighting, and if it's possible to see what happens in Underworld, wouldn't Critter just log Wasaga out when he sees him turned into a tree? Very good question, especially because what you're saying is correct on a technical level, and the anime did not explain the intricacies of it. So first off, there are multiple layers of Underworld. I'm pretty sure I explained this a while back, though I am not exactly sure when I did, because this was relevant at a very specific portion of the story. When Floodlight Acceleration is in effect, you cannot access the visual form of Underworld. It's basically just running on memory data when the Floodlight Acceleration is enabled. When it's not enabled, when the world is running one-to-one real-life time, then you can actually synchronize the world data with the infrastructure provided by the seed. You can turn all of that and visualize it just like a game. And that was the plan with bringing people from the US, China, etc. as well. Once you bring that down to one-to-one, it's basically just like a game running on regular hardware. So at that point, you can also watch everything that is happening there one-to-one and record that as if it was just a normal game. And that's what's happening at that point. They recorded stuff happening within the world and then sent it to US, China, whatever, to rile people up. And at that point, Critter has a whole lot of other things to attend to as well. So he's not just going in and watching, oh, I wonder what PoH is doing right now. He's not doing that. If he was doing that, yes, what you said was perfectly possible. He would be able to see PoH is now just a tree and just log him out manually. But again, the fact that the simulation is in a complete lockdown, there may be other intricacies going on in regards to manually logging stuff out. In fact, I'm pretty sure there are some blocks in regards to manually logging people out from the other side. That's why the only option Kirito has is to either get himself killed, which is again not a safe option as Kikoka explained, or just go to the actual main console in the World's End altar and log himself out manually from within the simulation. And with that, we're going into way too much of a tangent just to explain a little point that was part of that answer. So we're moving on. And we got the opinion questions segment now. First off, would you like to see Kirito and Asuna get married in the anime at some point? When do you think this might happen? Chances are, well, it's kind of early for them to be married in United Ring because they're still technically quite young. Would I like to see Kirito and Asuna get married in the anime at some point? Yeah, maybe as a very final epilogue small scene cut. Sure, eventually yes, but that's when it's gonna happen. Not soon, definitely not soon. 2. If Moon Cradle and Progressives get adapted next, how do you think it'll be done? I'm pretty sure I answered that question, right? Just checking the question. Okay, let's see. I was thinking of having a movie for Moon Cradle and a new anime season for Progressives, or we could have them both in one season. Definitely not in one season, both together. No, that's not gonna happen. With about a core for each one and Progressives only being adapted up around volume 3 or so. Yeah, again, the thing with... I talked about Moon Cradle, so I'm not even gonna touch that over here. With Progressives, it's gonna be quite interesting because unlike arcs that we have in the main story, Progressive does not have explicit arcs like that. It's just back-to-back floor stories that constantly connect into each other. So this may sound like a joke, but trust me, it is not. The only way I see Progressive anime happening is something very long-winded like Naruto, One Piece or whatever. Just eventually, once the story is far enough, of course, eventually just have hundreds of episodes back to back, not really limit yourself to cores, just tell an ongoing, constantly flowing story. That's the only way I see Progressives happening. Otherwise it's gonna be way too fragmented that it's not even gonna work with that kind of narrative, in my opinion. Next one, still opinions, still not spoilers, so don't get scared. I have 3 questions and the third one contains a big spoiler, which is exactly why it's not in the screenshot. I separated that to answer in the spoiler section. 1. I was thinking, and I want to know your opinion on this, if Quinella had a metal barrier around herself and Yuji and Kirito got lucky that their swords had no metal, could it be a possibility that when Quinella forged some of the divine objects that were once organic creatures or plants, could she have used some metal art so that they wouldn't get past her barrier? Yes, in fact that is not explicitly stated, but I'm pretty sure regardless that is the case. The reason why this is in the opinion section is that I am pretty sure that is the case, but there is absolutely no sign of it in the novels itself. But when Quinella creates something, I'm pretty sure he's just transmorphing something rather than just changing the shape of it into something else. So yeah, I'm pretty sure weapons created by Quinella are metal objects just to keep her additionally safe in case one of her Integrity Knights goes rogue. 2. If someone were to cut down Tree PoH and turn it into a divine object, would it have the same abilities as the Night Sky Sword, since it turned into a tree by Kirito using the memories of the Night Sky Sword? The thing with PoH is that's quite a good question, requires a lot of speculation and guesses here and there. The thing is, once the tree PoH is cut, we don't know if the tree will actually remain as an object to be turned into something in the first place. That would be my first objection to the idea. Because when Kirito is logged out, as we know from his child, I am not talking about the future stuff. When he was a kid, when he was logged out, his body just disappeared with him as well. Until people like Asuna, Shinon, Sugua dived in with the god accounts, the bodies of the god accounts were not in the world. So my assumption in this case would be, for starters, if PoH was cut down as a tree, the parts of the tree would actually end up disappearing from the world, because at that point PoH would be logged out. Though again, there are some future stuff that may disprove this, so I am gonna continue with answering the question with the assumption that it may not be disappeared from the world. yes, if it would be turned into a sword at that point, I would assume it to have the same powers that Night Sky Sword has, and additionally some powers related to PoH's personality as well, because at that point PoH is effectively part of the object's memory. Hope that answers the question. For object's memory stuff, you may check my other videos. I talked about that a lot, and a new video is coming about specifically that, not specifically about that, but part of the video will be about that. I am getting too long rambling this. Next question is gonna be a spoiler question, so this is your spoiler warning. If you don't want any spoilers, it's time to leave now. And before you leave, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content, hit the bell icon, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz. We have channel merch available. 50k is so close. Please share the channel. I am rambling, so you leave if you don't want any spoilers. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hey Gamerturk, great video as always. At some point in Volume 18 we learned that Kirito and Asuna have spent 160 years in Underworld. We also know that Kirito aka Star King and Asuna Star Queen were immortal, but unfortunately Roni and Tiza have passed away, and this part is really confusing to me. The knowledge might have been lost with Administrator's death, but couldn't they freeze their life as Berkuli did? That's actually a point made in Moon Cradle if I recall correctly. I'm pretty sure they no longer want to freeze the lives of people when turning into Integrity Knights, or in the future Integrity Pilots, because that's quite an unethical thing to do. As for the other Integrity Knights who had their life values frozen so they wouldn't age, it's not elaborated on. They weren't brought to real world because the story continues. Please stay tuned for Unital Ring. It's only said that the other Integrity Knights have been quote-unquote sealed, and the topic is not really elaborated on. So yeah, we probably need to wait a couple more volumes before we finally get some confirmation on that, what actually happened to them. We don't know specifically. Chances are their lives were just frozen, just like, I can't say that because despite we being in the spoiler section, I can't actually spoil an event that happens in 2 episodes just because it may provide some minor clarification. So let's cut that question for now. I said what I needed to say. Next question and final question. Does the Night Sky Sword have 2 abilities as part of its memory release? As when Kirito first uses it, it absorbs resources to heal Kirito, but during the fight with Gabrielle Miller, it absorbed resources again, but unleashed an attack similar to its enhanced armament phase. The key point being, memory release and enhanced armament, they are technically all the same ability, just different levels of potency, let's say. So yes, Kirito's sword had 2 abilities from the get-go. One is absorbing spatial resources, and second, just unleashing those spatial resources on its enemy. Same thing with memory release, absorbs the spatial resources all around, just in a more grander scale than ever before, and then just unleashes all of that onto Gabrielle Miller, Subtilizer, whatever you want to call him. And that ends the Q&A. God damn, that is... How do these recordings always take almost 30 minutes? I don't even know. It's like my mind is scripting all of this in my mind to last about 30 minutes in recording and then to be trimmed down to, I don't know, 23, 25. We'll see, we'll see. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do hit that like button. If you want to see more of these or more in-depth content about SAO, do hit that subscribe button and bell icon so you get notified. Following me on Facebook and Twitter is always great, you know, it gets you the fastest news because tweeting stuff is much faster than making videos about news. And please do buy my channel merch, new stuff coming once we hit 50k. Share the channel around with all your SAO love, I don't know, just share your passion and stuff. We're almost at 50k, come on, let's do it. I have rambled on for too long already. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, stay cool.